Hey, what's up, everybody? So, today in this video, what I'm going to talk about is how to create the perfect pitch that is going to work every single time that you pitch to a prospect, right? So, when you're hopping on sales calls, what exactly do you say when you've done the discovery and now it's time to present your solution, right? How do you structure it? How do you make it appealing to them? And most importantly, how do you make sure that you prevent objections and you make sure they understand everything with clarity and certainty? Okay, so let's get straight into it. Just before that, if you're new here, my name is Guido. What I do is help coaches go from 5 to 10K per month to 50K per month by implementing DM setters and AI systems. So if you want to learn about those things for free, just subscribe below and you'll be kept up to date. So let's get straight into it. Before I even show my pitch framework, the most important thing that you want to transmit to other people when you're doing a pitch is two things. One, are you clear? And two, are you certain? Right? So you want to transfer clarity and certainty. At the end of the pitch, they should have those two things. Now, they might have questions. That's okay. You can answer those. But ideally, they have the most of the clarity and they definitely have certainty, right? That's kind of what we're aiming to do. Now, how do we accomplish that, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways, how people pitch. Some people do it very short, some people do it very long. And then some people do it more based on features. Then there's the benefits, and then there's the transformation. So, and then some people divide it into pillars and others divide into phases, right? It's like there's a lot of different options, right? What I personally have learned to be the best and have tested this myself since I was a closer, and I've closed over at this point over 1 million myself in deals. I kind of took parts of different people that I've learned from the industry. Part of it was from Cole. So, and this is kind of like my final version, at least for now. I'm probably going to improve it in the future. So, yeah, let's get straight into it and see what that looks like. So, my framework, particularly, is focused on transformation, right? So, definitely not features, right? Because features, they may come across like in terms of the like how you deliver, and you can say, yeah, we do this by doing having group coaching call, but that's just like an added bonus. If you remove that, it wouldn't be an issue, right? So, but before I get into that, I'll explain how that integrates into each of the parts, right? So there's mainly, this is the entire pitch, right? This is the actual pitch itself, right? The kind of the meat of everything, but everything else kind of supports that. This is just a transition line in order to ask them permission to present. Then you actually present, and then you have a temp check, right? You ask if they have any questions, give them space, temp check, and then you price drop. Now, the funny thing is that all these other things are just as important as the core. So you have to pay attention to everything. Okay. Now, the pitch itself is divided into three parts. Okay. The first one is the big offer, right? What is the main thing that you help them with? What is the outcome? Because if you say that at first, you're going to, first of all, have a North Star, right, for them. And they'll feel like, okay, this is what I'm aiming to do. That makes sense. And also, you'll hook them, right? They will feel like, oh, yeah, this is what I want. And then they will want to hear the next steps, right? It won't feel like you're getting into the details without understanding the big picture, right? So the way I like to do this is something like, okay, so what we basically do is help you, big offer, and then you can also add this extra thing, which is like, which typically costs over X. And this is price anchoring. It's a bit more advanced. It's not necessary. I've closed plenty with just this. So this is the most important part, which is like, so what we basically do is we help X type of people get to Y outcome so that Z without A, right? That's kind of like how I like to do it. So for example, for a dating offer is we help men over 40 that just got divorced to find love again without needing to date in their age group. I don't know. That's an example. Or in health, we help moms in menopause, right? Going through menopause to win back their form that they had before without having to sacrifice their lifestyle, something like that, right? And usually one does this big outcome, right? So you call to that, which is truly what they want. And you can also tie in the goals you got from the call into that so that they feel like it's more personalized towards them. And that's also a big important aspect of the pitch is that you make it personalized towards them, right? So that's the first line. Then after that, what you want to do is explain the three steps. Okay. I used to call it phases. Phase is a very fancy word. You don't have to call it that. You can just call it steps. Okay. So what I say is we've seen there are 3 steps that our clients need to be successful, right? And this is kind of so that they pay attention. Again, another hook, right? There are 3 steps, right? So it's simple, clear, right? And they need to be successful, right? So it's certainty. I need this, like you kind of transfer that. And then you want to divide this into 3 steps. And in between each step, you want to pause and ask if they have questions. That's basically it. Ask if they have questions or any concerns. Okay. And then each step needs to break down one part of the journey with each client, right? So this is where people differ. Some people just like to have 3 pillars. Some people like to have phases and pillars. I personally just like to keep it simple. And I think that historically speaking, most people follow stories. That's what makes sense to them because that's a transformation ultimately. It's not like, okay, we're going to do this, but then this is how we're going to deliver and focus most of the time on the pillars, right? That can work. And I know a lot of people that do that successfully. Personally, I prefer to tell a story, right? That makes a lot more sense to me. And so what I like to do is basically just show them how each step is going to take them one step closer to their ultimate goal. Literally, right? Like 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps. And I go in depth into each of those on that. And then if I need to, after I explain the step, I can then explain the deliverables that help with that step, right? So, and the formula I like to use is this, right? Because we always want to make it personalized towards the person. So instead of X being the thing that they've tried in the past, right? Previous attempts of vehicles, we help you Y, which is your new vehicle and the specific part of the vehicle, so that you can goal number 1, right? So that they can attain whatever they told you they wanted. And I like to use this for everything, right? So instead of having to date within your age group where most people are married, right? Like if you're divorced and 40 in the dating offer, what you can do is actually, you can reshape who you are as a person, and you can make yourself younger and appear younger so that you can attract an age group that makes more sense to you in the 30s, um, that, for example, so that you can, and then see that was included. Now with the weight loss offer, instead of trying crazy diets and pills or relying on your old systems to get you the results that you wanted, that you used to get, but you no longer get because of the hormonal changes. What we're going to do instead is create a new approachable and sustainable method that will work for you for the rest of your life with your new conditions of your body, without you having to sacrifice your life, so that you can maintain your lifestyle and even feel better and feel like you're 30 again, something like that, right? That's the first part of each step. And then after that, you can explain that a little bit more and how you're going to deliver that. Well, and so step 1, what we do with that is that we're going to incorporate a new diet, right? That is based on X, Y, and Z, and it works well because of X, Y, and Z. And then ultimately how we help that is basically create a plan for you, or with you. We hop on a call and we create a plan, right? And after that, we can have weekly calls, right? So see how that works. You start with the ultimate transformation, then you have the benefits, and then you have the features at the end. But you start with the most important. And if you forget the other 2, that's okay, but you need to hit this line. This is the most important. That's why I have it here. Then after that, right, you pause and say, and then ask if they have any questions or anything. And then you go into step 2 if they don't, right? If you do, answer the questions. Important thing, if they ask you questions and you're going to answer them, you can just say that. If they ask you questions and it's not relevant, it isn't, and it comes from a place of fear, you probe into that. Ask them why they're asking, right? Because a lot of times that's just fear popping up and you want to handle it right there and then, right? Then you go into step 2, which is the logical next step in your progression, right? Again, not pillars, but like a journey, right? The first 4 weeks, we're going to do this, then the other 4 weeks, and then the third 4 weeks, right? And then they can feel themselves going through the process. They can envision themselves doing that, right? And that's going to create a very kind of story like, and especially if you make it custom to them, right? It's like, because you mentioned, right, because your goal is not necessarily to lose weight, but it's just to feel confident about yourself, right? But we need to lose weight in a sustainable way so that you can feel confident, and that's a good easy way to do so. And on top of that, we're going to have the mindset stuff for you to be able to make your mindset even more even stronger, right? So you can customize things on the script based on what the person told you, right? That's very, very important, and it kind of gets very good results. Now you might be asking, this whole process, how long should this take? 5 to 9 minutes total. The pitch itself should be like 3 to 5, including questions, right? That's kind of the ideal. And if you, I can kind of give you an example at the end of what a whole pitch looks like. You do that for the 3 steps, check in afterwards to see if they have any questions, and then eventually you finish with the final offer, right? Which is basically restating the same offer, but now connected to their desires as well, right? So that's how you kind of make it like, yeah, so that's kind of it, right? Certainty and clarity. That's how you go from where you are right now to a place where you're able to lose weight consistently, get back to your weight that you were when you were 25, and feel like you're loved again by your husband, right? Something like that. And then you can also add the guarantee there. And this one's very powerful because it finishes with a very strong statement, and you kind of focus on what really matters to the person. Not like this is how you can lose 20 pounds. It's like this is how you can get back into the weight that you were when you were 30, and you feel young again, and you feel loved again, right? What they truly desire, right here, right? Now you might be asking, why is a pitch so short? Or why not shorter, right? Not shorter because you do need to kind of deliver this story, right? It does require a little bit of time. Not longer, because if you go too long and you give too much information, you're violating the 2 main rules, which is clarity and certainty, right? The more information you introduce, the less certain the person is going to be that they'll be able to achieve to do those things. And so, because there's a lot to do, right? And the less clear they will be, because that's the first time they're hearing it, right? Like you've heard this many times, you've practiced, you've had thousands of calls, but they haven't. So, you kind of have to kind of adapt it to them, basically. And you have to simplify it. Simple is better, right? Simple with a story, that's what gets people, right? It's like the version of our ancestors when they were around the campfire and telling stories to each other, right? It was not like a 2-day story. It was like something for 10 minutes, and people would get hooked, 5 minutes even, right? That's it. Simple, clear desires and everything like that, right? Now, that's how you do the pitch. Okay. Now, after that, what you want to do is give them space. And the reason why you want to do this is because most people, salespeople, are going to be like, so do you like it? They're going to like come closer, like, so do you like it? What do you think about it? Right. And they're going to ask for like feedback right away. And that does 2 things, which are not good. One, actually 3. One, it's going to put pressure on them, right? They're going to feel like they have to tell you something, which is, it doesn't feel great, right? 2 is that it creates a sales resistance, right? Because it's like, you kind of feel like now it's time to buy, right? There's like this vibe, there's kind of routine that you're used to from salespeople. And the third thing is because when they're bothered about giving you feedback, they're not going to think about it. They're not going to be able to relax and process what you just gave them, right? So what you want to do is deliver a really strong final offer, and then just shut up and look away. Don't even look at them, like look away. You want them to process and to be like, wow, that is amazing. And you're like, yeah, I guess so. Because you've said this 1,000 times and you know it's amazing, so you don't have to oversell it. Your pitch doesn't work for you, right? So that's what I like to do, is just chill. Look away, especially look away. You don't want to look into the person, wait for them, be frozen. Like, fill a glass of water, get up and close your window, look away so that they don't feel like you're looking at them and not analyzing what they think. So they feel like they can relax and process the information, right? Which also prevents think about it objections, right? Which is also coincidentally is also when, kind of talk for too long. You also create think about objections because they have not too much to process, right? So they're not going to want to, make a decision like that. Which is valid, like it is a lot of information. So if they feel like it's a lot, I want to process, but it's because you made the pitch too long, right? Once you give them a little bit of space, then do you have any questions or concerns, right? You're in there. If they say no, like it's so funny. When I ask, do you have any questions? And people say no. And then they like 5 seconds later say, but I have this thing. Like they say, I don't have questions, but I have this thing, which is a question as well, right? So it's just not like they're just trying to process everything. So like don't force them, like ask multiple times if they have questions. Like, yeah, we can stay here for a while. Just I know that was a lot, so you can process everything. Like give them space as much as possible. And the reason for that is because once you get here, you can't go back. You're not supposed to go back. Any questions about the process, right, should not be asked at this point or after. And so you want to make sure that there's nothing else and they have time to think about it. You know, when like somebody's asked you, do you have any questions, like a teacher, and you kind of have one, but not really. It's more like a thought, like something, but it's like you don't know how to formulate it, and you kind of get stuck, and so you just say no. That we want to avoid that, right? We would just want to ask multiple times if they have questions, ask what they think about each of the steps if you want to, but ultimately just like give them space, and they will come with the questions. Now, one thing also is that they might ask, how much is it? And that's a valid question, right? But we don't want to give away the price until step 7. And so, because of that, what you want to do instead is say, yeah, definitely, we can discuss that in a second. Besides the investment amount, what else, what other questions do you have? And that will allow you to get everything answered before the price, because a lot of people fall into that and like, oh, yeah, I can tell you now. Or they go into temp check, right? But they forget that there are other questions. So, but people are going to have that in their mind, right? The price, but you can't fall into that. You have to wait. Let's say you've answered everything, right? You've asked twice, 3 times, and they say, no, definitely, I just have the price left. Gotcha. Okay, no worries. So just before we go into the investment amount, right? Just so I have an idea. And then you do the temp check, okay? Just the process. This is very, very important. Just the process, okay? Which means it's just a process. Like, it's nothing else. Like, is it going to work for me? No, no, no. Just a process. From 1 to 10, right? 1 being I hate it, and 10 being it's exactly what I need. What number do you feel you're at? Okay. So you want to do the 1 to 10 scale because it's just easier to measure. Okay. And you want to describe what each of those numbers represents, right? 1 being I hate it, and 10 being it's exactly what I need. What number do you feel you're at? And from that, you're going to get a feeling number. This is the most important part. Feel. Okay. It's not about what they think, it's about what they feel. You want to encourage them to think with their emotions, which is more important. So what you want to get from that is at least a 9 plus and certainty in their voice, right? Because sometimes they say like, yeah, I guess it's like a 9. You know, the tonality is going up, inflection and all that. That's not really certainty, right? It's a 9, but it's like there's something there. So if you get a 9 already, right, you want to ask why? Why 9? Right? But if you get under a 9, then you need to work with them until they get a 10 or a 9. Okay. So you ask them what's keeping from me in 10, and then you do objection handling, which I have a framework for that as well. Right. And you have to keep handling it, right? The reframes and all of that, the fire method that I have, until you get a 10 or a 9. And if you don't move on. Don't tell them the price, because I don't care. Like, if they, you're not gonna get 10 from me, that's okay. I mean, you could always drop the price, but don't expect them to buy. Sometimes you just gotta continue. But it's important that they understand that it's just the process. It's not how much is it. Oh, well, I have to. It's an 8 because I need to know how much is it. No, you don't. I'm asking you just the process. Not with that attitude, right? You don't have to say it that way, but you say just the process, just these 3 steps that we talk about. How do you feel in terms of the scale from 1 to 10? 1 being it's not going to get me where I want to go, and 10 means exactly what I need to get to my goal. Which number would you pick? Just the process, right? And a lot of times that's also going to give you the other objections, and you can solve them right there, right? Instead of going to temp check, to price drop. So once you get a 9 or 10, then you go into the price drop, right? And the price drop is done this way. It's so for the entire process with phases 1, 2, and 3 to get you to desires, right? What they mentioned before, it's only investment amount, right? It's only $5,000. It's only $6,800, whatever it is. Okay, that's it. No like, oh, today if you close on the call, it's going to be 4K. Typically it's 5K. No discounts. Avoid guarantees saying that there as well. Like, just focus on the raw, and then if you need to add stuff, you can, right, to incentivize them. But that's usually a cop out. It's because one lacks the skill of closing and objection handling, and not because they're like and actually know what they're doing. Like, sorry. What it means is that their skill is lacking, and they're trying to compensate with guarantees, and that's typically, I haven't seen that succeed very often, honestly. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the whole process. I could always release like my own pitch as well, for example, just to understand. But it kind of works this way, right? That this is kind of like how the method works. If you have any questions, please ask below. And if you like this type of content, you want to learn more about sales, about systems, and about AI and appointment setting, please subscribe below, share this video, And yeah, hope this helps.